No, this isn't a dream. You're reading this right. I am Justin Perkins. This is Talk Junkie. And finally, I am back. I've been off a little bit. I'm going to be off a little bit longer. This is just a little short little break. Let's say a vacation, if you will. I'm finishing the book. There's so many little things and little tweaks and finishes. And I really want to have it published, ready, released to the Red Spotted Newt either 1st of June or first week of June. And then to everybody 2 weeks after that. Amazon and all. So I'm very close, and that's why I have not been making podcasts. Time's kind of been eat up with that, but it's so close. It's so close. But I was taking a break from tweaking around with some stuff in the cover and things like that today, and I was just kind of taking a break. And I got to looking at the YouTube page and looking at really the video that's kind of got me going with the YouTube page and kind of got it going. One of the first videos there was one about what I wanted to be when I grew up, and that was one that people constantly commented to me and were like, you should do this YouTube thing, and that's kind of what give birth to the type of podcast I do now. And I've thought about that a lot lately. I've thought about that a lot, especially as I was writing this book. I know it's a poetry book, and I don't know, what people's views are on that. To me, it's my favorite form of expression, so it's what I do. I don't think it's the best form or the only form. It's just I like it. And I've been on here before and explained kind of how I used to write, and then I quit and all that. and the last poetry book was very personal. And it had built up for years, and as I was doing it and as I was writing it, I saw a change kind of in myself and who I was, and I've seen that a lot lately. In the last 4 or 5 years, some people might say it's a midlife crisis. I don't know, but I look at being a teenager, and as a teenager, like I wanted to be a good person. That was top priority for me, was to be good to people and have people treat me good. I wasn't worried about being a cool person because I wasn't cool. I wasn't worried about being the hippest guy because I wasn't. I wasn't worried about being popular because I wasn't popular in the Hollywood sense of the word popular. I had a lot of friends and that felt good. But I enjoyed being me, and I enjoyed trying to be a good person. But more importantly, I liked that I felt like I was very different than other people. Now, we all wear uniforms, regardless of what that uniform is. I guess mine was like a goth skater mix, and some people wear this uniform of a preppy person. And the uniform is just a result of the desire to fit in. It just kind of puts us where we are. I noticed that the realest people, the people that always seem to be very, very genuine, the people that really didn't fall into those modes, not like when I got into that whole, I don't even know what you call it, like the JNCOs and the black t-shirts and the fingernail polish and the long, I went in full bore, 100%. I got absorbed in it, and it changed a little bit of who I really was to try to fit into a little bit of a mold, and I did that, but I knew people that just, they were legit themselves all the time, and they didn't really try to fit into those. And to me, they were truer people than most people, and they didn't have that uniform. But most people did kind of get sucked into that. But having said that, I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. I've done videos and podcasts over tribalism and how we get sucked into these cliques, and it's just what we do. It's part of human nature. It's what we do. Everything from politics to personal life. It's kind of how we exist. It's kind of how we interact with people. And to a certain degree, especially with kind of that group of people you run with, I don't think it's always a bad thing. Like, I didn't look at it as always a bad thing. Like, I was a poser at times, but I hung with a lot of posers, and they kind of showed themselves. And that, I don't hang with them anymore. My circle's much tighter. But it's cool that I was able to experience that. And, somebody told me once, well, they called me a freak. So, you were just a freak in high school because you couldn't be one of the other things. You couldn't be a jock, or you couldn't be a prep, because if you could have, you would have. And I don't believe that. I really believe that, because I know some dudes that could have easily been jocks and preps that were what he would call freaks, even though they were a little bit posing, but still, they were there. Like, I really think that's what I identified most with. That's the music and the feelings and the things that I identified most with. And at 18, I truly, honestly believed that I was a little bit of an outsider, but I definitely thought different than other people. And at 18, I really believed that that's how I would always be. That was just me. Now, by 19, I was with my now wife. We were married, with my daughter and stuff, by the time I was 20. By the time I was 21 or 22, I was still rebellious in my mind to a certain degree, very much so. And that hung on there. But by my mid-20s, I felt a lot of that slip away. By 30, I was a different person. But I was a different person because I was afraid. I was afraid of having a family and not being able to support it, of losing a job. I got haircuts and I dressed a certain way and I acted a certain way, and I had certain political beliefs and I had certain religious beliefs out of fear. Fear of what was going to happen after this life, fear of societal, I guess, society judging me and deeming me unfit and me not being able to provide for my family. And I very much sold out. I mean, I next level sold out. To be completely honest with you, I become a very religious, conservative person, and not a person I recognized. And that I lasted in that for a while. That wasn't a come and go thing. That really stayed there. Probably late 20s to, let's say, 33, 34, somewhere in there. And then, I don't know, something just started happening again. And by the time I wrote the first book, I was having a little bit of a swing, a little bit of a regression, if you will, back to an older way of thinking. And I think the writing helped open that up. And by the time I got laid off and started the YouTube channel and tried to get the podcast going, I'd made that full swing. I'd made that full switch back. You see, I talked about it on other podcasts on here about working the hours and making the money and buying the things, and that wasn't me. That wasn't who I was. The thing is, I had brought other people on a journey with me, though, and that was to a certain degree who they are. My wife and my kids, they have a certain type of life that they want to live, and it's not the life that I want to live. I say, let's homeschool the kids, let's work 3-4 months at a time, hit the road, travel, never really own anything, never really do anything, and see everything. And live, not exist. If I had remembered that at 20 instead of at 37, 38, I probably would be in a completely different place than I am now. But I wouldn't have my wife and I wouldn't have my kids. So, I mean, there's no time for regret. There's no time for hindsight. That's a ridiculous endeavor. There's nothing good to come from it. But it is comforting to know that by the time I'm 40, I will have at least come full circle. Like, I went from this shy, quiet, just not really quiet, I don't guess I was ever quiet my whole life, but this shy, backwards, whatever I was as a little kid, to this rebellious, I don't know, goofball as a teenager, to this fake thing that I was in my late 20s back to this goofball. And I love that. And I like that. You know, I was going insane being something I wasn't and didn't understand why I was going insane. And it's not like I've done anything profound or I've done anything great. I've not done anything at all. I've not accomplished anything in the regards of anything great. I just went, screw it, that's who I am. Like, I don't, you don't have to like me. That's just who I am. I was in a store the other day, and a woman looked at the shirt I had on and said, I've never heard of Rage Against the Machine. What kind of music do they play? Well, the shirt's just black, says Rage Against the Machine. How do you know it's a band, for one? Like, this didn't occur to me until after. But how did you know it was a band? Then, as soon as she says, I've never heard it, she said, I just don't think I would like that. Before I had even had a chance to answer. And my initial reaction was kind of embarrassed. Dude, you're almost 40 wearing a band t-shirt. And then I was like, wait a minute. You're wearing a band t-shirt because that's one of your favorite bands and it's because that's what you're into. And so what? And I was like, well, they've not been around in a long time. They've been broke up for almost 24 years. She said, really? And I said, yeah. On and off here and there. I was like, I was supposed to get to see them this summer, but the coronavirus, I don't know if that's going to be possible. They've already moved the date up once. It's in August. I got to go all the way to Raleigh, North Carolina. I don't know if I'm going to get to see them. But I hope that I do. It was always a dream of mine and a friend of mine to get to see them. And she said, well, I just assumed they were a newer band. And I was like, no. I was like, they're not. I was like, but did you really think that they were a newer band? Or did you automatically think that they were something bad, that they were something evil or satanic or horrible that you just didn't like because you're programmed not to like those things, and without hearing it, even knowing what it is, you were just instantly going to down it. And she went, maybe that is why I felt that way. I was like, well, I got to a point where I thought that way for a while. I was like, but it's easy. It's easy to kind of to get into that rut. The hard part is switching back on and thinking for yourself again. I said, that's a little hard. And I'm fully disclose anything. I'm younger than my wife, and so I should look that, but I don't. I'm extremely gray. My beard is white gray. My hair is white gray. And at that time, I hadn't dyed it yet. I ended up dyeing it the next day. Not out of vanity, out of the fact that I like to rub it in on my wife that I'm younger than her, because I don't hardly ever dye it. I've been gray for 10 years. But anyway, she said, I thought you were older than you were based on the gray in your beard. And I was like, well, how old do you think I am? She was like, well, I would have thought you were close to your 40s, mid-40s. I was like, well, I'm not quite 40 yet. I said, but I'm almost there. And she was like, well, that sounds like something a 20-year-old would listen to. What kind of, that's a weird statement. That's a weird statement for someone to say. For two reasons. One, are we really breaking music down into age groups? Like, I understand there's a divide or something, but I love Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton and Cream, and I wasn't around when that was big or even when that came out, And, I like, some newer stuff, like Meg Myers. She's a pop artist. I like her. I like Billie Eilish. Like, I can definitely relate to some of that music. I like the way it feels, the way it flows. I like Eminem. I like some rap. I like a lot of different things, but I don't look at it as an age bracket. But when she said that, I realized I did. To a certain degree, I did. I did look at it that way. That's the same exact way she looked at it. She had an immediate assumption. She had immediate thought structure. She had an immediate belief based on something. Now, looking back on the conversation, she had to know they were a band to begin with, and she had to know something about them, because a lot of her comments were guided. Or at least maybe she didn't know anything about them, but somebody had told her things about them. And so those statements were guided. And I would say she was a woman of probably 50, maybe a little older. But those thought patterns had to be guided. But then I thought about, when I look at someone, obviously we as people judge right off. We just do. Like it's built in us. But the question is, do you have the ability to stop that mid process and go, wait a minute, let's let this play out, or let's experience this person for who they are? Because I think that's the goal. I don't know. It's hard to not judge people to a certain degree when you first meet them. I think some of that is trained in you. It's a societal thing, and some of it is even a defense mechanism of, okay, can this person hurt me? Is this person a threat? But to be able to stop it and go, okay, let's just ride this out and see where it goes. That's an important thing, and it's something I realize that I do, and it's I never thought about it until that day. I find that to be a great accomplishment that I do that. That I go, wait a minute, let me feel this person out. Let me see where they're going. Okay, they got a MAGA hat on. Let me hear this out. Let me see. Is it a joke? Do they have a valid reason for their beliefs? Somebody's got an I support pedophiles shirt, or a Biden shirt on. Like, do I stop? Do I go, well, wait a minute? Is this ironic? Are they advocating for dementia patients? What's the deal? If somebody has on, a certain band or something like that, or a certain political party, do I automatically just go, wow, they're indoctrinated, or do I give them a chance? And I think that's important. I think it's important to give them that chance. For a lot of reasons for me, but for one, like, 17-year-old me would have never fell for the Dick Cheney administration. But towards the end of that, I was so afraid, like every other American, I was kind of falling for that. Like I was falling for the Bush puppet, and I was falling for Cheney's order. Like I was somewhat falling for that. And, I even fell for the Obama deal. I fell for the I'm going to be transparent. I fell for the I'm going to be honest. I fell for the I'm going to, I fell for that. But 17-year-old me wouldn't have fell for that. 16-year-old and 17-year-old me despised Clinton. Knew the Bushes were a threat. Knew their experience with the CIA. But I'd become complacent to a certain degree, but I'd learned to conform. See, conformity is a weird deal because the thing about conformity is it's not really asking you to conform to something that a small group of people are doing. You're not conforming to the minority. You're conforming to the majority. You may conform in different ways. You may conform to the Republican Party. That's a group of people that want to control every aspect of your life with laws, religion, and groups like the NRA and people who okay, the government's not saying this, but this group we really believe in, and they want to control you that way. But if you in turn turn around and conform to the Democratic Party and conform to social justice warriors and conform to 80 genders and conform to cancel culture and conform to a very sexist and out of control Me Too movement, like, you're being controlled. That's the thing about conformity. Conformity is about control. But it's on every aspect. If you don't get a job, you're not conforming correctly. So everyone gets a job. And if you don't go in debt, you're not conforming correctly. So everyone goes in debt. And if you're not buying the right things, wearing the right things, saying the right things, doing the right things, you're not conforming. And everybody does those things, so you have to conform. You have to do those things. I used to wear a uniform. I wore a uniform at 17. And I wore a uniform at 25. And I wore a uniform at 30. Wear a uniform at 35. At 40, I don't want to wear a uniform. And I don't mean in regards to a military uniform or in regards to a certain type of dress specifically. What I mean by uniform is it's a literal and a figurative thing. I dressed a certain way, looked a certain way, acted a certain way, but I believed a certain way. I was indoctrinated a certain way. I wanted a certain type of acceptance from a certain type of people, but at its purest form, when I was about 15, and I just wanted to be a crappy musician, a horrible skateboarder, and I wanted to wear things that made other people look at me and go, what's wrong with him? At its purest form, when that first started, that was really me. And when I made collages, they were protest things. And when I wrote poetry, they had rebellion and fire and spirit in them. And when I wrote music, it had a sense of urgency and rebellion. And those things felt good. And I lost those things. They got hidden. They got mixed up in the shuffle along the way, and I forgot them, and I forgot what they were, and I forgot who I was, and I forgot what I was. And all these unconnected things over the last 20 years got me to the point that I sit at right now where I go, okay, I see it. I actually see it. I see where I conformed. I see where I changed. I see each progression. But I also see when I was pure, when it was real, when it was truly me. And that's what I want back. So I'm almost 40. Still can't skate. My body's broke down. Still can't play music. Still a wannabe artist and a podcaster. But I'm as close to really being me as I've ever been. That's a weird thing to say because you assume that you're you. I know people that die hard believe they're them. That believe there's nothing unreal or conformed or whatever may be about them. And don't get me wrong, I know some people. I've got a buddy named Caleb that I believe may be the purest dude in respects of, I don't see him sell out. I don't see him be anything but him. And I know some dudes like that. And I know some people like that. I know some ladies like that. But those people are few and far between. But those people are some of my favorite people. And I don't know. I like that. And there's a game being played in life. There just is. And I have to play that game to a certain degree. Because it's a choice I made. And it's something that my children didn't get a choice for. But my daughter's gone. My son's getting there. At that point, maybe I don't have to play the game anymore. At all. Maybe I check out before then and just go, no. Everybody's got to suffer with me. But the point is, I see the game. I see the court. I see the players. And I see the exit. And I didn't see that before. There's a way out. There's a way to just be you. There's a way to, I don't have to dramatically fight the system because it's kind of like the Matrix. You remember the scene in the Matrix when Cypher says, I just want to go back to sleep. Just put me back in. Let me taste steak again. Let me, have relationships again. Let me be basically blissful in my ignorance. Ignorance is bliss. Let me be, oblivious to the real world. Some people don't want to wake up. Some people don't want to see that. And there doesn't have to be this big crusade to make them. Maybe they're happier conforming. Maybe they're happier in the system. I don't know. But I know that 15, 16-year-old me would have been disappointed in 25-year-old me. 15 and 16-year-old and 25-year-old me would have been disappointed in 30-year-old me. And 16 and 25 and 30-year-old me would have been disappointed in 35-year-old me. 16-year-old me and me right now, we could hang out. We could have fun. I couldn't stop him. I couldn't stop him from selling out in a year or two. I couldn't stop him from going a little too far in that direction. I couldn't do anything for 25-year-old me. Nobody could. 30-year-old me, I could have go, hey, remember 15-year-old me? Go back that way just a little bit. Go back that way just a little bit. And I hope that 40-year-old me has brought it full circle. One of the questions that made me think about this is, what defines me as a person? And see, that's what the podcast was going to be about. When I hit record, that's what I was thinking about. That's what the thought process was in my mind, because that's how this works. I think about something and I go, man, I want to talk about that. And I hit record and I talk about it. But see, that never came up. I never defined myself as a person. I thought of all the ways that I'd defined myself at some point in time. A punk, a freak, a conservative, a liberal, a Democrat, a Republican, a Christian. I'd thought of all the words I'd used to define myself at one point in time, and in the process of trying to define myself as a whole wasn't happening throughout the last 27 minutes and 28 seconds. There was no chance for me to do that, no chance for me to figure out what is it that defines me, because nothing defines me. I've finally stopped that. I've had all those things in the past define me. I'm just a dude. I'm just a person. I just exist. And I'm having more fun existing and a better time existing than I have in a long time. And a lot of that's to do with, the current situation not working. But that's another podcast all on its own. Send your mail, all that good jive. New stuff's coming out. There'll be new episodes. There will be a new book. Once the book is done, these episodes will increase in frequency. You guys are awesome. I love the interaction. I love the downloads. We're at 800 downloads on iTunes as of way the other day. I don't even remember what Spreaker was, but it was up there for Spreaker. I mean, it really surprised me for Spreaker. It was nowhere near that. YouTube page is the next hurdle. I'm going to work on that YouTube page and try to get it up. I am using the Instagram because I'm going to use it to advertise the book, and I may start using it to advertise the podcast more. I've got that monster kind of put to bed now, the whole social media deal, and it just kind of is what it is. But I really, really enjoy doing this podcast, and I really, really love answering your emails. And there's one email that came before the last email, the mailbag show, that I think deserves its own kind of response. So it's going to get its own. There's one that's come since then that I think is a very good email, and I'm going to do it kind of as its own episode. It's its own ideal for a show. And then a Messenger. I've been going back and forth on Messenger with a buddy of mine about some stuff, and it's actually going to be the next episode, I believe. So, your guys' interaction is really helping the Creative Juices fall very, very close to another. To the 100th episode. It'll be in the next couple of weeks once this book is complete. But I can't wait to get that done. I can't wait to do another mailbag. If they keep coming in like they're coming in, I may do another mailbag sooner than later. But thanks, everyone. You guys have a great day. Don't die, don't suck. Be good to people, and all that good jazz. On now.